This here is my review of the Ruger PC carbine, the new one. This one, now you've all seen the reviews online about all the features this thing has, everything it can do. It takes it'll take either the supplied Ruger magazine or the like this big Glock magazine. It's got different what do you say, feed wells for for magazine attachment. The one that's in there is the Glock feed well that I used to test this 33 round magazine. And there's the factory Ruger one that I use. I already have a whole bunch of Ruger magazines because I've got an SR9C already. And here's the tools for the takedown and adjustments and whatnot. Here's the spacers for, if you need a longer length of pull. And it's got fluted barrel. It's got threading on the crown. Threaded thread protector on the crown to put a suppressor on it. The Picatinny rail milled onto the top, and we all know it's a takedown. Other people have demonstrated how easy the barrel detaches from the rest of it. Okay, all that's awesome. And for the most part, the reviews have been very positive. So this is good, and everything those positive reviews says is good. I'll add a couple caveats. One is that the trigger's good. It's really good compared to a Beretta CX4 Storm. Well, that doesn't say very much, though, does it? That trigger is basically the one really weak point on that rifle, the Beretta, I mean. This one's a lot better, but it's not awesome. People online are saying, oh, this trigger's unbelievable, it's so great, it's so awesome. Look, it's crisp, crisp let off. It's a very good trigger, but it's a bit heavy. It's a good trigger. It's not awesome. Adjustable ghost sight is really good, but it's mounted on the barrel, which means you don't have a tremendously long sight radius. So while it works really well, if they really wanted to increase accuracy, they should have put it here. So this is going to be kind of a critical review because people have already talked about how wonderful this gun is, and I'm not trying to take away from any of the positive comments, except like I say, I think the praise for the trigger is a little overstated. But the first thing is the takedown. It's and other people have commented that it's very similar to a Ruger 1022, except worse somehow. And what I mean by that, it's got the bolt is inside the receiver, and to get to it, you've got to, first you have to remove the barrel, which is pretty easy, but then you need tools here and here, and I'm going to ding it because they're Allen keys. If you've got one tool on you, if you're in the field and you only have one tool on you, it's not going to be an Allen key. It's going to be a Swiss Army knife or something similar. So because of that, my personal view is that everything that you might have to take apart in the field should have slotted screws, not Allen key heads, or, God forbid, Phillips heads. So there's that. It's a real pain in the ass. And I suppose I should have started this with the language warning. Guns are basically for adults, and I use adult language, so live with it. So yeah, you need the Allen keys to field strip it. And unlike a 1022, where once you drop the trigger mechanism, and it drops the same way with a couple of roll pins, just like the 1022. At that point on the 1022, you're pretty much done. You could now easily remove the traveling bolt, the cocking handle, and the spring. And the spring and the guide rod and the cocking handle are all on the same unit on a 1022. Here they're not. Once you drop the trigger guard, your next step is to take one of those Allen keys and remove the bolt handle. It's ambidextrous, can go on either side. I've got it on the left right now for some reason. But you got to take that off in order to take the bolt out. And once you do that, you can take the bolt out, and you'll see it's kind of a complicated bolt. The bolt face looks like it has an interchangeable, it's interchangeable for different calibers. So there's that. And it looks like there's a free sliding like deadbolt, like a dead blow hammer weight in the bolt. I think it's made out of tungsten, and that's interchangeable for different calibers. So apparently someday in the foreseeable future, there will be a Ruger PC carbine in different calibers. I know a lot of people would be excited to see a 10 millimeter that they could use for, actual hunting or serious pest control. As it is, it's just 9. Ruger, for the 40 caliber, you don't need to bother with that so much. We're kind of over 40 caliber. But I think a lot of people would like one that takes 1911 magazines, 10 millimeter, like especially Glock 20 magazines, and of course the 9 for just, whatever. So, it's a real pain, and here's what makes that a really, really big pain, is that if you just screw this bolt back in and nothing else to the right tension, it is going to come loose while you're shooting. This thing is going to start flopping around, and of course if it falls off, you've got no way of cycling the bolt manually. That is a real, that's a real negative. And I'll tell you the truth, I've got Loctite paste. I don't know if they still make it. I've been using the same bottle for like 10 years now. But, even screwing it back on with that blue Loctite paste, it still comes loose. That's a big deal. That's a real design flaw. But the biggest design flaw, in my judgment, is that it weighs a metric shit ton. I mean, god damn, is that heavy. I think the Ruger specs, I don't have a scale that's for measuring stuff like this. I mean, I've got one scale for measuring food and another scale for measuring me, and I don't really have anything for measuring, objects. But Ruger lists it as 7 pounds, and I would say that's at least 7 pounds. And that's with an aluminum receiver. All the weight is here, by the way. This front part is very light. This back part, there's not much in this. It's all here. And it's a lot. It's more than a pound heavier than the Beretta, and substantially heavier than the Kel-Tec. I mean, yeah, all right, it's a Kel-Tec, so, if you want something maybe built a little bit better than that, you got to take some more weight. But Beretta does it without going this heavy. And I should say, too, since I was talking about the takedown, the Beretta takedown, it takes down into 3 major parts with no tools, 3 major and 2 minor parts. Basically, you've got to push a bolt out through the middle of it, slide the front off, take off the charging handle, which is also ambidextrous but does not screw on. It fits into a slot and cannot come loose, unlike the Ruger. I'm talking about the Beretta now. And when you're done, you got 3 major components plus the charging handle and the bolt that holds the whole thing together. No tools. And as with this, I mean, what's good about the takedown is that it gives you access to clean the barrel from the breech. You don't have to, do it the wrong way. and same with the Beretta. You get access to the barrel after you take it down. But yeah, it's really too heavy for anything but, if you're going to use it as home defense, I guess, and, for whatever reason, or for pest control, keep it in your truck or something. I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be all right for that. It's fine for the range, but I wouldn't want to be walking around with it. It's a heavy gun. It's heavier than an AR-15. I'm talking unloaded. And there are things they could have done to lighten it. One is this. You don't need this. This should be a detachable part instead of being here and adding more weight that you can't remove. Now, I'm glad they did not use Ruger ring connections. Those of you familiar with other Ruger rifles, you know that they have a proprietary attachment, and it can only use Ruger steel rings. Those are unnecessarily heavy, and I mean, you know, Ruger's a big company. They should be using the standard Weaver rails now, the standard, not, you know, Picatinny rails. They shouldn't be using that proprietary crap. So they could have saved weight doing that. They could have probably saved weight by not making it, you know, by making it for 1 or 2 calibers instead of with this open-ended interchangeability for options that may or may never happen. So far, all those other calibers are still vaporware. So I think they could have made the bolt lighter if they didn't have to have that traveling tungsten thing in it. They could have had maybe a slightly stiffer recoil spring. And again, this is how Beretta does it. And it works. So, yeah, they could have made it lighter. And you got to think that this takedown mechanism adds to the weight as well. So, again, even though I like having access to the back, so clean it from the breech, and I'm sure the takedown thing was made with, again, barrel interchangeability in mind. You know, you switch out the weight, you switch out that face piece on the bolt where it connects to the cartridge. You switch out the barrel, and now you can shoot a different caliber. Well, the thing with that is that the barrel and the weights and the new bolt face are not going to be free. And since this gun is only about $500 retail, once you bought all that crap, you might as well just buy another gun instead. So I'm not a fan of interchangeability of caliber. So I think they could have saved some weight by getting rid of the takedown feature. You know, it's not a very long gun anyway, and when you take it down, all the weight is in this. So it's not like you're breaking up the weight at all. This weighs very little. All of your weight is here. So I think the takedown thing is more trouble than it's worth, especially for weight. Reliability. Again, I compared this to the Beretta CX4 Storm Carbine. I have the 92 configuration, that is to say the... Ooh, Ice Cream Man. You know, funny thing about the ice cream guy for this neighborhood, he won't stop unless he sees somebody. And in order to, you know, that sound is supposed to alert you that the ice cream guy is going to be in the neighborhood. But I swear to God, you've got to be a fucking Olympic sprinter to keep up with him. If you want ice cream, you've got to be able to do a 4-minute mile to keep up with him while he's going along with his music playing. Otherwise, forget it. You might as well just drive to the drugstore and get some. One thing I will say, it seemed pretty accurate, perhaps slightly more accurate at 50 yards than the Beretta CX4 Storm. And it could have benefited from a scope, I think. I think it would have been more accurate with a scope. It does have a good trigger. The problem, of course, is the gun already weighs 7 pounds. How much more weight do you want to put on it by adding a big scope? Or, well, it seems like all you can get are big scopes now. It's hard to find anything smaller than 38 millimeters. But you put a scope on there, I mean, that's going to, you know, with the rings, that's probably going to add another whole pound to it. So, you know, there you go. I mean, one of its advantages, you know, cuts against it, because the thing it needs to really bring out its accuracy, you probably are not going to want to put on it. I think most people are going to put red dots, you know, those little tiny Bushnell red dot things on it, just to save weight. It's a nice gun. It shoots well, and everything, most everything that most people say about it is true. Oh, one other thing, reliability. The Beretta, since the day I bought it, has been 100% reliable, period. And I have fed some real crap through that thing. I mean, I would love to be able to shoot Federal American Eagle every time I take it out. I find that's the most accurate, reliable, practice-grade ammunition, in my opinion. And it'll eat anything. I've shot that Russian steel cased crap, the aluminum Blazers and the aluminum Federals. The Beretta doesn't care. It'll eat it all. And it has been, if not 100% reliable, then damn close. And this is out of thousands and thousands of rounds I put through it. This is a newer gun, so I put fewer rounds through it. But I've tested it with different ammunition. Aluminum cased. Obviously the brass cased FMJs. I've tested it with the jacketed hollow point, you know, the defense rounds, plus P defense rounds, And it seems to work with all of them, but not perfectly. Had a few hang-ups, not a lot. It's mostly reliable, but I've had a few hang-ups, especially with the aluminum cased ammunition. I haven't tried any of the steel cased Russian crap, so I don't know how it would work on that, but based on how it did with the aluminum, I'm thinking not perfectly. And what's odd is, now I've got a whole bunch of SR9 magazines because I've got, as I said, an SR9C in my house. You know, and it's easier just to load up with all those magazines and go to the range than have to keep reloading the same one over and over again. I mean, that's why I have a lot of magazines. I don't think I'm going to get into a huge firefight with a compact pistol or really anything. So the weird thing is, yeah, with the factory magazines, it was less than 100% reliable. Now, for a range gun, that's fine. But for pest control, especially if it's a dangerous animal, and for any kind of personal defense thing, you know, if you've got a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere and you think you need a rifle for home defense, yeah, this would be a good choice, except do you really want to hear that this is going to be reliable 95% of the time? I mean, obviously, you're going to start thinking about that remaining 5%. And the funny thing is, it was with the factory magazines that it was less than perfect. It was mostly reliable, but that's like having a life preserver, a seatbelt, or an airbag that's mostly reliable. You want it to be perfectly reliable. I don't remember if I had any hiccups with the Glock magazine, but I do know on the whole, this Glock magazine, this 33 round Glock magazine, was more reliable than the factory SR9 magazines. Weird, huh? Although, I mean, like I said, it wasn't unreliable with any of them, but it wasn't perfectly reliable. The Beretta was perfectly reliable. Even with that crappy slop job trigger, it did everything this could do, and it did it better. So, yeah, so that's my critical review for the Beretta CX4. The Beretta CX4. Well, I guess I did review that too, didn't I? For the Ruger new PC carbine. Okay, thanks a lot.